Welcome back to our final installment for this school year of Kickin' It with Kathleen. I hope you have a wonderful summer filled with enjoyable things to do with your family and friends. And while you're doing those things, I would like to ask you to do a favor for me and for the whole charter movement, and I will tell you more about that in a minute. Several people have asked me on the comments section of my vlog about the recent court decisions and how they have affected our school's operations. So I wanted to fill you in a little bit about the story of the change in our the way that non-classroom based charters like ours can operate. So the story is that there was a charter a couple years ago up in Northern California in Shasta County. They operated in a non-classroom based charter just like we do. And they had several resource centers. And one of their resource centers was in a different district from the one that they were authorized in. And that district was upset and they wanted that resource center shut down. So they sued them. The charter school won at the lower courts in a very well-reasoned decision that we all agreed with, all of us charters. But the district decided to appeal, and they were backed by the California Teachers Association. They appealed to the appellate court, and the district won at the appellate court. So appellate court decisions are precedent setting. So this means that the upshot of this is non-classroom based charters who have been operating for 15 years under the understanding that they could open centers anywhere in their county. They didn't have to restrain themselves just within the district boundaries of their authorizer. Now they can no longer have resource centers outside their district boundaries, and instead they have to get charters for every resource center they want, except if it's in the adjacent county, because they're allowed to operate anywhere they want in the adjacent county, as long as they have the majority of their students in the county that they're serving. So these rules are really technical and confusing and ridiculous, as a lot of legal stuff is. So this court ruling, which we're calling ODIC, out of district in county, ODIC, is really the beginning of what I am afraid is going to be a war against charter schools. And this is where I need your help. I need you to be aware of what the issues are, because the anti-charter school people out there, and that is, led a lot by the California Teachers Association, but there are other groups that are against charter schools, are spending a tremendous amount of money. Largest lobby group in the state, spend millions of dollars every year lobbying on behalf of traditional public schools. They are just beginning to ramp up in California. And you may have heard the radio ads that listed that all sorts of things that were untrue about charter schools. And you have to understand the truth, and that way you can support us out in the public when you talk about these issues. When you introduce yourself and say you work for a charter school, people might ask you about these things, and you should have some ready answers for this. And this is part of advocating for the whole movement of charter schools, which is good for kids and good for society at large. 9% of California kids right now are in charter schools. It's not a large market, but it's a scary trend that the school districts want to nip in the bud if they can. So I'm asking you to become a warrior for charter schools, because we know that 60% of the California population of voters are undecided about whether or not they approve of charter schools. So I want to take you real quick through what our opponents are saying about us. They have about 6 big things that they're talking about with charter schools. 6 things. Number 1, that we are not public schools. That is totally not true. Charter schools are public schools. We take public funds. We are allowed to participate in the state teacher retirement system and the public employee retirement system, STRS and PERS, which is all of our employees are eligible for. We would not be allowed to take part in those things if we were private, if we were a private enterprise or a private school. Our board meetings are run via the Brown Act, just like all school districts are. All of our financials are open to the public. We are public schools, but instead of having elected officials on our board, which there's no avenue for in the state government, we have a 501c3 nonprofit board, and that is the reason that the California Teachers Association, when they launched these radio ads, said that we were privatizing public school, because 501c3s are not always public. But ours are run via the Brown Act, so we are public schools. So it's a bunch of a crock of not true, of stuff that's not true. Number 2, we cherry pick our students. Not allowed in California. In California, every child we have to accept every child eligible. There's no eligibility requirements for charter schools. So children apply, and the only reason they may not get in is if there's not space. And if there isn't space in a charter school, they would have a lottery. And that's the way they do it. We do not have to usually do a lottery because we always have programs open like Homeschool Venture Keys. So there's always an option for children that don't necessarily get into one of our centers. But for our centers, it's first come, first serve. There is no preference to students who are high performing or whatever. So that's not true either. Number 3, that we don't serve minorities, English learners, special ed population. Well, that's not true in California. All California schools, charter schools, serve those populations. In fact, we have a higher percentage statewide of minority students and low-income students than in traditional schools per capita, proportionately. Number 4, we get more money than traditional public schools. Totally untrue. We get 72 cents on the dollar. It used to be we get 89 cents to the dollar. I've been using that number for a number of years. Well, I looked it up before I did this vlog, and I found out, no, we now get 72 cents to the dollar. So we do more with less money. And the whole idea of billionaires running charter schools and for-profit corporations running charter schools, that is not true in California. So there is, I mean, I don't think it's true in the rest of the state, the rest of the United States, but it's definitely not true in California. We don't have for-profit entities running charter schools. The only exception to that rule is the California Virtual Academy, which actually does have some for-profit arm that they pay. But the rest of the charter schools in California are nonprofit. All right, number 5, there is no accountability for charter schools. And that is absolutely not true, because charter schools actually have a lot more accountability than districts. We can be closed down. We have to be renewed every 5 years, and we can be closed down if there's anything wrong that happens. There's been a recent situation with the charter school, Oxford Prep, that was closed down because of mismanagement, financial funny business or something. And they were a good school, their teachers were doing a good job, their students were performing really, really well. And if they were a district, even if none of that was happening, they would just replace the leadership and move on. But that doesn't happen in charter schools. So charter schools have more accountability than traditional districts. And finally, the last one is achievement. The rumor is that charter schools students do worse than traditional school students. And that is absolutely not true. Charter schools tend to do exactly the same with middle income and high income students, and charter schools do much, much better with low income students. So that's the actual facts. The actual facts, if you look at them, are those, all 6 of those, that we are, yes, we are public schools, we're not private schools. We're not allowed to cherry pick. We are serving the underserved populations proportionately the same, if not more, than the traditional school system. We get less money as a charter school than the districts get, and we operate on less, and we provide the same services on less. And we have more accountability, and our achievement results are the same or better for the low-income, underserved populations. So, in fact, charter schools were first introduced by Al Shanker, who was the president of the American Federation of Teachers, which is the national arm of the teachers union, and he was the president from 74 to 97. He's the one who was first. So the unions have not always been against charter schools, but recently they have. It's the way it's going. These are the facts. I hope that you will be able to have some conversations with your friends and relatives and people that you meet, and be able to support the charter school movement for people who don't understand what it is. We are free, tuition-free public schools that provide an alternative, an innovative alternative to the traditional system. And we want to stay in business, and we think children deserve a choice. So enjoy your summer, and I look forward to seeing you all at Pechanga.